I'd like to start with this image. This is the underdog. You know, we say that everyone loves the underdog, right? You know, last night, Butler Bulldogs, 8th seed in the college basketball championship. Second year in a row they got to the championship, right? And lost. They lost badly. It was a boring game. It's terrible. And so there's no shirt sales boosted in Butler, wherever Butler is. We're just left with an underdog who loses. And you know, no one remembers underdogs who lose. And I think that that's what sandwiches are, if you think about it. When you talk about food and you strip away ingredients like Vegemite, animal lips, dog meat, you know, deep fried Snickers, etc., and just talk about the type of food out there, there's nothing that is more of a utilitarian prop that we just use and discard as much as sandwiches. So I think it's time to give a little time and just talk about sandwiches a little bit. That's some sandwiches. There's actually one. Okay, so I boiled it down to the 4 things you should know, remember, and share with friends in the subject regarding sandwiches. Because I'll be honest, my agenda here is just simply to prompt more conversations about sandwiches. The first thing is that, and I gotta admit it, and you know this, sandwiches are mocked, made fun of in 3 key ways. Intellectuals use the method of trivialization of sandwiches, and you know, I think I'm not alone in being angry about this. Frequently, critics of social media, this Twitter, Facebook, they say that it's a refuge for bored hipsters that share sandwich plans. These facts are real. I looked at the New York Times and the Guardian in the last 3 years, and I calculated the number of stories that mention Twitter and sandwich frequently dismissively. And you see an upward climb. I don't want to climb a mountain like the Guardian. Look at that thing. And I projected it for 2011 based on the first couple months of this year. And look at what the British are doing. Brutes, thugs, and jocks also get into action. But they use the weapon of demasculation with sandwiches. There's no better example than the movie from 1988, Midnight Run, when a murderous mobster who wants to kill an accountant has to pacify his pacifist advisor, and his name is Sidney, for heaven's sake. When he says this, "Sidney, sit down, relax, have a sandwich." We're left with an image of Sidney that's not shown tragically in the film. Maybe the B-sides have it, or the DVD with the unreleased footage of him just sitting there tenderly holding a panini in his hand. Game over. Sidney is not a factor in the rest of the movie. Nerds and the ordinary people get into this action of mocking sandwiches too, through the Clevelandification of sandwiches. There's no better example than the TV show 30 Rock. In 2008, they had an episode called Sandwich Day, which kind of balanced Cleveland with sandwiches. You were invited to laugh at it. Let's play a clip from this that talks about Liz Lemon, who herself is essentially a poster child of the ordinary and mundane, the same way that sandwiches is. Here we go. Do this.
Where's my sandwich?
She finds it. Oh, did I do that? Christ. Oh man, she eats the sandwich. Now, very messily. Now she's at a key moment because she's at the TSA security line at JFK. She has the option of chasing her ex to Cleveland or eating her sandwich, and she decides to eat her sandwich. And there's 3 reasons, the next 3 reasons, why she made the right choice to pause and eat her sandwich, and I will discuss them now. Tarantino style, I'm going to jump to 3. Movies could be made about sandwich history. What I'm talking about is the pedigree of sandwiches. The history of sandwiches is more impressive and textured and fascinating than any souffle. Here's why. How do I do this? Okay. The murky origins of sandwiches go back 2,000 years. Hillel, the Jewish religious leader, tried to figure out a way that was a template for teaching future generations of Jews how Jews overcame slavery in Egypt and once again unified. He did it with a sandwich, the Hillel sandwich, part of the Seder tradition. Around the same time, Virgil wrote a hit poem called the Aeneid. I haven't read it either, but I read about it on Wikipedia. I got some details. It's about hunky Trojans that are going across the Mediterranean and killing people. And they're trying to fulfill a prophecy that they can establish. We talked earlier about to found You know, like the verb for to found a city, whatever. They're trying to establish the greatest city that humankind has ever known. And they would only do that when they were so starved that they would eat their very plates. Well, they reached the shores of Italy, these hunky Trojans, sweating in the sun. And they found themselves with these just giant stale pieces of bread. And they had nothing else to eat. And they put some little sauce that they could find and they ate them. Now, these was a common tradition at that time, called trenchers, to use thick, stale, inedible pieces of bread as plates. And they were eating the plates. And they rejoiced, these hunky Trojans, because they knew that they found the place that they could establish Rome. Because they were eating something that's considered the ancestor of sandwiches itself. You can't build Rome in a day, but you can build it because of a sandwich, and the Trojans and Virgil knew that. The most important part about the history of sandwiches is how it got its name. It got its name because of the game of cribbage. This is important, please listen. In the 18th century in London, there were these gentlemen's clubs, like the Hellfire Club. These are fascinating places where aristocrats and the privileged would gather and they would drink and they would listen to pornographic poems and stage mock pagan rituals. There was one there that put a little too much powder in his wig. He was mocked frequently. In fact, our independence, I'm speaking for the Americans in the crowd, is sometimes linked to this man who ran the Navy, the Royal British Navy, during the Revolutionary War. And a lot of people credit his ineptitude with our independence. But no one questioned this man's love of the game of cribbage. He loved cribbage so much. This is true. I read it on Wikipedia. He loved cribbage so much that he refused to impure the cards of cribbage with greasy hands. So when he snacked during the game, and he snacked frequently, he asked for an edible sheath for the meats, 2 pieces of bread. It caught on. The man's name is John Montague, as you know. His title, the 4th Earl of Sandwich. You know, sandwich. You see the connection? Number 2, Tarantino, going back. Sandwiches are a traveler's best friend. I'm into travel, so I'm kind of into this stuff. I saw a documentary recently about sandwiches on the History Channel. I love that this exists. And they talked about sandwiches being the most democratic of foods. I boiled it down to 3 factors. They're easy to make. What did I say? They're portable, and they're tidy. So even this mulleted mustache traveler can take a sandwich and go travel and see places and have more experiences. That's good. I travel a lot. I could probably map my greatest travel experiences simply through the sandwiches I've had. You know, my first sandwich, first time I ever went to Europe, I got to London, you know, it's like, whoa, I'm finally here, you know, and I take the tube into the town, and the first thing I do is buy a sandwich. You know, I just stand in line, they're like, I'm from Oklahoma, there's like ready-made sandwiches in delis, and you just point and pick one, and I was just going, wow, Europe, exactly what I thought you would be. In Russia, and it wasn't a line, it was a queue, I should have said. And in Russia, I had glass burgers, and in Vietnam, you find out sandwiches can crunch with this pickled leeks that they put in it, and things like that. All kinds of different sandwiches, but I have a favorite sandwich I'd like to share with you. And by the way, I would suggest all of you to go get this sandwich tomorrow because it's in New York. Cheeseburger. There's a lot of presidents, I don't know how many, what is it, 75? The sandwich president, though, is Chester Arthur. Now you may remember him because he has these impressive chops on the side of his face, kind of like cleaver-shaped, you know, facial hair things going on. He was only president because James Garfield got shot. But he was one of 2 presidents that was inaugurated in New York City. He was vice president living in that building at 123 Lexington, and when he became president. And you can go there, and I wish it were open now, you can go there, go upstairs into his former bedroom and order a sandwich. This is Khalistan's Indian spice shop. It's one of the more famous spice shops in the city. And it's Chester Arthur's house, I love this. And you go, and this very funny man from Armenia, you ask him, yes, I'd like a sandwich, and can you give me, because this is Chester Arthur, who? Chester Arthur is the president he used to live for. Oh, okay. Can you give me the Chester Arthur sandwich? So he suggested the Majara, the lentil sandwich, and I said, let's do something to make it a little more Chester. So we cut it in the shape, middle on the left, we cut it in the shape of pants. Because, I mean, you know, some things don't bear being repeated, but you know this, but Chester Arthur is the most pants-loving president that we have because he had 80 pairs of pants and changed his pants 7 or 8 times a day. That's true. So when you order the sandwich, make sure that it's in the shape of pants. This is a sandwich I had in Burma. Number 4. It's really bad. The most important thing, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to foster more conversations about sandwiches. And the most important thing you should take away from this, and if you have to put it on a smartphone or write it down, that's fine. You know, but no one knows what a sandwich is, and I'm serious. No one knows what a sandwich is. I'll say it 3 times fast to you. I love this. In Worcester, Massachusetts, a few years ago, Panera Bread somehow gained, I don't know how, what kind of connections they had, a sandwich, this is true, a sandwich exclusivity clause in a mall. So that they were the only ones, the only business that could prepare sandwiches, sell these sandwiches, and profit from sandwiches. Now, about a year later, Qdoba Mexican Grill came in with their quesadillas, tacos, and particularly those burritos. Panera Bread was furious because it violated their sandwich rights. And for the first time in history, the idea of what a sandwich is was taken to court. I'm not joking. I actually had to pay the Boston Herald or whatever to read this article. It's like, if I could download, you have to pay for articles. The judge practically laughed the case out of his courtroom. He said, common sense in a dictionary determines what a sandwich is. Well, I looked it up, and my favorite definition is the Merriam-Webster's third, which says sandwich is, quote, something resembling a sandwich. So they called in a sandwich expert, Chris Schlesinger, who's been featured in the New York Times. He's an area chef in Boston. He's originally from Virginia, I believe. This man came in and said that the notion that a burrito is absurd. Qdoba Mexican Grill must stay. Well, his bravado changed a little bit when he left the courtroom. I called him. He left this message. I just thought I'd play it. Is it working? Here we go.
Hey Robert, it's Chris Schlesinger calling from the East Coast Grill. I got your email. My phone is 857.
Don't call him.
I'd be glad to talk to you about sandwiches. Where that came up is I was former owner of the All-Star Sandwich Bar down the street. I have sold that, and we're at the East Coast Grill, and we have a couple sandwiches, but it's, you know, it's not like a sandwich concept. So, but having said that, I'd be glad to talk to you if you're still, if it's still pertinent. Okay, thanks. Have a nice weekend.
Needless to say, I did not call him back. This is your sandwich expert telling me what sandwich is. Did you hear him backpedaling? Oh yeah, well maybe I know about sandwiches. You're telling me what sandwiches are in a court of law in Worcester, Massachusetts? No, I didn't call him back. This leaves up the interpretation of what a sandwich is to you, right? What is a sandwich? When a Turkish immigrant leaves Turkey with a kebab, and he moves to Germany, and he has a notion of something that's a little more friendly to the takeaway customer, and he takes the kebab off the spit. Instead of putting it on a bed of rice on a plate, he puts it in a pita, and he calls it a doner kebab. That was 40 years ago last month. Is that not a sandwich? When a German immigrant moves to Texas, and in 1904 he goes to the St. Louis World's Fair, and he takes the hamburger meat patty and says, you know what, I can better that. And I put it through a couple pieces of bun to make it so that people going around St. Louis can eat it portably. Is that not a sandwich? Woo! When the burrito moves up and migrates to California, and it becomes the mission burrito by stuffing the rice and beans into it, and that spurs the wrap revolution. Is that not a sandwich? Well, Chris Schlesinger and the judge of Worcester, Massachusetts say it's not a sandwich. I say a sandwich is determined by a gesture of goodwill. It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich gesture that believes that any doofus can make one. It's portable, it's tidy, you don't need utensils. It's just an edible sheath that you can take with you. You can travel and experiencing things better. I will leave you with one idea, that there's possibly a simpler idea of what a sandwich is. And I turn to Hicksville, New York's greatest son. You know who it is. Yeah. Billy Joel. Billy Joel said that a peanut butter jelly sandwich, this is a quote, and I got it on some quote site. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich is better than bad sex. And I think I'm not alone here in applauding Billy. Billy, are you here? He's not here. And applauding Billy Joel. I applaud you for rightfully putting the notion of sandwich making together with love making. He's right there. But where he sells sandwiches short is by linking it with bad sex. We know when we think about where sandwiches, I get a little emotional about this, when we think about where sandwiches came from, where they are now, the fights and the arguments about what sandwiches are, and you know what? Where sandwiches will go. I know. It's much, much, much better than bad sex. Thank you.